Welcome back. The day developing the very exciting new chronograph clock kit. Last night I was unable to sleep, as frequently happens, my mind's going, but I found the perfect answer. Each time I tried to work out how to position these parts in the right place and started imagining these little black spaces and things, the next thing I knew, it was about 3 hours later. Fantastic. The only thing is, now I've figured this out, it's probably not going to work, but I'll give it a go again tonight. What I have done, because I was wondering, as I say, there's nothing to stop this, which needs to be mounted with that in the centre. It's quite how to get people to assemble this so it all fits together and this doesn't spin round. I suddenly realised that the best way to do that would be to mark out, get the laser to engrave, so there's another super improved version, 2 lines around these two, so that when you're assembling it you glue on that there and that there. Then spray that with brass or whatever other colour they would like, and then that means they can very easily then drop on each of these spaces. It's that simple. Each of these spaces, and then the necessary this bit, and to cut a long story short, that bit now I've adapted, changed a bit so it actually lines up with that, so it holds it in place, blah 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 blah, and it'll make it much easier to put together. Brilliant. I think the next thing to do is to start working out the sequence of assembling all this. It's a bit daunting, but actually, like I found yesterday, whenever it was, putting all this together, making a few improvements, it was quite manageable. I think I just need to get on with it and stop thinking so much. This is exciting. I've had an order for a ready-made Nempnett Thrubwell, and indeed another one on the same day for a kit version. So what I'm doing, I've sent the kit version off and I am putting together the one they want assembled, and it is so enjoyable. Put the wooden parts together, got them stained and they look gorgeous. I've built the circuit, which is lovely, really enjoyable, especially with the wire bending jig, so that you can get all the wires the right length, and it's very satisfying and easy to do because the sticky back label guide shows you where everything needs to go. Got this bit assembled, nice bit of brass and copper, and there's the stained knob. I've got this bit glued together. It's all so exciting, I can't tell you. So stain's finally all set and finished and dried. Now I'm ready to start putting everything together on this. I'll get on with it. The perfect gift, yeah, the perfect Christmas present. I've got all that glued on, that looks lovely, and the pump's inside. There's the 4 wires, 2 for the flickering lamp, 2 for the pump, the air pump, that's connected up, that's joined onto the, held in place by the Munson rings, which look fabulous against the dark wood, absolutely beautiful, even though I say so myself. It's the front panel, it's all coming together. It's the begin and cease switch and the advanced retard adjuster, set the time, the clock movement and the switch on the back, that's going to fit in like that. It's all so exciting. I've got the knob glued onto that gear, and you don't have to worry about centering it because it all centers itself, lines up. The bearing glued in there, makes that spin beautifully, and I've just finished screwing the pointer on the gear that goes onto the clock movement, and there are some more of the engravings. Oh, I just love building this, it's so enjoyable. It turns, fabulous. It's so enjoyable. I must stop saying that. It's also nice because, as with these things, this middle one is adjustable, so, which I'm so pleased I've designed into it. There's a slot, and these have got very big washers, so if you loosen it, or before you tighten it, you can slide this just in and out so it meshes but doesn't grind too much. Brilliant. What I'm doing now, I'm working backwards, I think. I'm thinking about it too much, to be honest with you. What I'm doing now, I think I've realised I need to work out the packaging, because if I'm going to do a step-by-step making of, and I'm going to be painting all, yes, things have started arriving. Well, one thing. I ordered these draw knob screws. They're really good because they've got a very, very wide head, and you can get them in a range of different thick or lengths. And the great thing is I got those to replace, because everything's so slippery when you want to pick it up. Looking at the back of it, these two screws, if you remember I didn't have any of the right length, so using those knob screws they'll give it plenty of support as you tighten it down around those two slots. That's nice, and these new bits are ready. So I'm going to take the whole lot to pieces and then try and sort out how to package them together. Also I'm going to include the beeswax wood stain varnish, simply because it's one of those things that, fair enough, if you need to buy spray paint, little pot of spray paint, you can, but I don't want to give people too much to have to buy that they may not have. So including a pot of that's nice, and I thought if I'm going to include a pot of that, I should include a couple of plastic gloves just to protect things. You can see how these kits get so overcomplicated. Just start, make a nice simple kit, and before you know it, anyway. Yeah, so there are the other bits. Got the numbers and the engravings and bits and bobs. A spacer, it's a used one, and nice extra amount of this duct tape to simulate the mercury in case it goes wrong and you need another bit. So I'm going to take this all to pieces, put in trays, and then think about it. Gall of a duck, strike a light, gall blimey governor, I nearly forgot the ball chain. So I worked out the length, because that needs to slot into the top of that bit, pull over there, down there, and through the L. Rather like this part. There we are, that's what it's going to end up looking like, so glad I remembered that. I'm going to do the instructions in the same way as before, photographically, which then becomes a video with a voiceover explaining it. Once it's on YouTube, YouTube very cleverly creates subtitles that can be turned into different languages, so it's a very, very good way of doing it. Rather than doing a video, because I think that would be a lot quicker, by taking individual pictures you ensure the essence, the message or whatever that you want to get across is perfectly suggested or illustrated by that particular photo. I think it's better way of doing it. The post's just arrived and things are being delivered. Woo! 108mm gems. Oh, and these are the lovely ones, the deep red ones. Sometimes I've ordered them and they're really sort of pasty red, whereas these are gorgeous. They've got metallised backs. Oh, anyway, they're gorgeous, take my word for it. What's this? Oh, something fairly solid. Oh, lovely. How beautifully packaged. I was only just thinking about these, the hexagonal standoffs. Are they the right size? Let me check. It wouldn't be the first time that I'd ordered stuff and found that they sent me completely the wrong thing. Yes, they are. 35mm. Fantastic. Male at one end, female at the other. Brilliant. It's all coming together. It's a nice touch as well. I've provided them in, you tear the top off, but it's got one of those sealing things along there, so that when you pull the drawer out and it all falls onto the floor, at least these stay together. The purpose of this is, on this frontispiece, it's a little engraved spot that holds the gem. And again, the lovely thing about this, because it's tricky if you have to put one on, position it with super glue, blah 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 blah, but this I've got it to engrave a slight dip so it sits in perfectly with an L in the back, so you can just get your super glue, couple of drips in there while you're holding the front with your finger. Bob is your proverbial uncle. Excellent. There comes a time in every man's life when he thinks this kit has got no 3D printing on it. And then he also remembers that, well, if you look at this pressure vessel, you need some way of getting that copper pipe into the top of it. With the previous ones I'd cut a piece out of 10mm acrylic. It was a bit fiddly. I think I had to drill each one out and it's all a bit of a pain to get it to fit reliably because of distortion, and if you engrave that much out of the centre of a piece, it's going to distort quite a lot. So I think I finally have an excuse to do some 3D printing for this kit. Nothing too much, just a little flange that's going to fit over the top of this with a 3.3mm hole in it. I think that will look really nice as well, because then you've got another change in angle rather than just having a sleeve, so to speak. I'll have a think about that. During the meanwhile, Mr. and Mrs. Cluture and their son Norman, nomenclature to be precise, nomenclature, how to arrange these, what I'm going to call each one. It's interesting because I don't want anything to damage anything else. If I put, for example, the engravings into nasty hard brass things, by the time they arrive at the recipient, they will probably have changed their appearance quite considerably. So far, nomenclature, fixings and fixtures. So metal and plastic bits that are small and are fixtures and fittings. I'm not quite sure about this. So far I've only got the clock movement in there. Possibly plastic gloves in with these, they won't cause any damage and could pad it a bit. And this one so far, sad to say, is just all the rest of the acrylic. I've got to work out how I can actually package these now. And also things like this, I don't know quite what to do with this. I'm currently thinking about an envelope, because that is going to get scratched or bent or scuffed up, or possibly on the top of that lot if it's somehow flattened. Oh, and there's the wood as well. Actually, that could go between two pieces of the wood, although there aren't two pieces. This could go on the top of the wood. Interesting. I couldn't resist including some normal abrasive paper, I think 180 grade, and some 400 grade wet and dry to clean up the plastic. And I was thinking, how on earth can I package these? But of course, lateral thinking, face them together so they don't really cause any damage to anything else. That can then sit on the top. That then sits on there. I'll just put a piece of sellotape round to hold it in place in transit. Problem solved. I need a box. I had a vague memory having ordered some boxes for these Victorian picture frames. I wasn't sure. Luckily, however, everything's really accessible. So I bit the bullet, the expression is, and reached this box, and sure enough, brilliant. Excellent. I'm so pleased I checked because they fit as well. Brilliant. Right, I'll put everything back together. That's really exciting. So there is the bit, and obviously the biggest bit being the wooden part, and there's plenty of room. Now then, I feel a bit of 3D printing coming on. In the original version, I'd cut out this top bit to fit on the cylinder, and cut it out of 10mm acrylic on the laser cutter. And it never quite fitted. It's quite a lot to get it to engrave a big dip in it and all the rest of it. It was always a problem to stick it onto this and everything else, so I thought, 3D printing. Let's design a 3D printed top, a cap for the pressure cylinder. Well, I've designed the top bit for the pressure vessel, and the 3D printer has printed it. Comes away nicely. Let's take it over to the workbench and check it out. Let's get just check the overall sizes. Well, that's perfect. In the end, I constructed this middle bit by creating a very long cone shape, having measured this, and then subtracting it from the overall shape. And that is, after all the aggro trying to drill out and push on the laser cut version, this just, it's beautiful. Right, let's see if the pipe fits through. There's one off the pendulum, but it's the same size, and it doesn't. Right, well, the hole in the end is just under 3. And by the way, as with all 3D printing I do, once you measure something in real life, at least with this 3D printer, always add 0.2 of a millimetre to the whole thing, and then it ends up being the right size, at least most of it does. I think the reason this isn't is because you can opt to print it straight onto the hot bed of the machine, or you can opt for it to print a raft and then it prints this onto it and then this snaps off the raft. I'm going to try another one because I think these imperfections are caused by that. I'm going to try another one, make that hole a little bit bigger and print it on a raft. Here's the new super improved one with the raft, as you can see, that's printed onto the base. Now what should theoretically happen is, but sometimes doesn't, oh there we are, yeah, it snapped off. Brilliant. Okay, and then made the hole bigger. Not big enough though. Why have a round one when you can have one with little dimples out the sides? So, made the hole in the middle bigger and designed it with dimples around the side. See how this one comes out. See if we can get that. Yeah, look at that. Just pulls off a treat. Let's have a look at that then. Finally, yes! That's the 3.5mm hole on the 3D software, 3D builder, and it pushes in perfectly. It's also built it perfectly. I was wondering how thin a surface you could get, but that's okay. That's still, oh yes. So finally, I'm happy with that. That will look lovely, really nice. Also means, because this is now pushes on nicely and everything, that when I was building them I was gluing them together. I was gluing that onto that, then putting tape, masking tape around that, then spraying this, then taking that off and blah 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 blah. It's a little bit of a pain. Whereas now, in the privacy of your own home, you can spray them up separately and then glue that on and it'll look fabulous. It's nice to give people the opportunity to spray things up in different colours, whichever colours you need. Now the last thing I need to do at this stage of the proceedings is to make a new one of these, or make another one of these anyway. Here's another one I prepared earlier. In fact, this one I used just as a guide. And in the end I did it by making a very rough and ready jig out of brass. In fact, that was wrong, but you put it in there and then you put it in the lathe and you clamp it and twist it round within these slightly filed slots, and then you can't get it off at all, so you have to reel and whatever. Now, originally I was using the welding rod, which is mild steel in the centre, coated with copper. And it was really hard going because it's pretty tough, and I thought I would invest in a roll of pure copper, 3 point something or other, and I bet this is now a completely different size. I'll have to check, but it's lovely because it's so much more malleable. This was bought from and I've got the business cards, like the Scientific Wire Company. No affiliation, but at least in the UK, amazing. They sell every conceivable sort of wire rod that you can imagine, all sorts of stuff. And then I was thinking, well, you could 3D print one of these and then people could make their own ones. Well, then I thought that to 3D print something like this is going to take ages, and if it's solid, which it may have to be, and also people don't have a lathe, but anyway, to cut a long story short, I'm going to make these up on my horrible little jig and supply them with the kits ready bent. The X and Y axis, that way and that way, don't matter so much because you know where the two end bits are, and there's a lot of leeway. It's the Z axis that's the important one, getting this hole here, this entry bit, lining up with the top of the pressure cylinder vessel. But you can do that easily, especially if it's copper, because then you can just give a little bend here and there and twist it and tweak it a little bit. It's another nice little job to add to the project. Back into the smallest part of the workshop. I've rigged up a nice support for the copper wire. So the first thing to do is to put an extra bit of that round there. There you go. And you can undo it, and then the fun, that's the word, really starts, because it's obviously really tight around that now. So how did I do it? Right, bend that back in, and because it's so malleable, copper, it's lovely because you can actually do it without needing any tools. It's not bad at all. Can you tell which one is the original? Well, that's the original one. This is the new one. I think that's pretty good. As I say, the nice thing is that you can still, because it's so malleable, I know it work hardens, but it still gives you a lot of leeway to bend and fiddle and tweak around with it. I won't do anything more to that until I come to putting it together, and then I'll see how it goes, see if I should get it any more accurate. Thing is that people I've asked about this kit have all said, we'd like you to make it as involved and complex as possible, which is great. They want to do more rather than less, which I'm very, very happy with, because that will help to keep the cost as low as possible so that more and more people can hopefully enjoy making their own chronograph. Right, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else that is required to assemble the chronograph. Counted them all in and everything, and now the next job is to get all this excitingness fitting into that cardboard box. It's the next thing, but I feel a video coming on. Thank you very much for watching. As always, please feel free to subscribe and tick the bell or whatever else. I look forward to seeing you next time.